Have you heard about quiet quitting? You know, when employees stop walking the extra mile at work or do the bare minimum expected of them. For some, quiet quitting means work-life balance. For others, it means losing one's mojo. But I am not going to talk about quiet quitting tonight. Instead, I have something a little more interesting. Let's talk about quiet firing. Hello and welcome to Gravitas Plus. I am Molly Gambhir. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt you were not being marked on important office mails, the same mails that you were once looped into? Have you ever been in a situation where you were not being invited for meetings that you once used to be a part of? Or do you feel left out of important decision-making processes in your current workplace? Say your team is coming together to set its quarterly goals, your boss is a part of the meeting too, but you have been kept out. Well, your boss may be quiet firing you. Just like the name, the concept of quiet firing is also interesting. So what really is quiet firing? It happens when managers demoralize unwanted employees. It is when managers create a situation that forces an employee to leave. Some of you may have been a victim of quiet firing. Some of you may have seen it play out live at someone else's cost. Now, quiet firing is not a new workplace trend. It's been around for ages. A recent LinkedIn survey of 20,000 odd employees found that 80% of them have either faced quiet firing or they have witnessed it firsthand. So what exactly does quiet firing look like? A recruiter recently posted an interesting watch out list. What was number one on that list? You don't receive feedback or praise. You may be doing your share of work, perhaps doing more, but your boss does not appreciate that. Your boss could be praising others for the same work, but for you, there is no praise. You are simply looked through. Now that is quiet firing. Sign number two, your annual raise is 3% or less. Say you are checking off your KRA, you have achieved more than your target, but your annual raise does not match your efforts. Everyone else gets good or decent hikes, but you are stuck in the 3% bracket. That, my friend, is quiet firing. Here's what else is. Your manager does not give you time for a one-on-one. Your meetings with him or her are rescheduled over and over again. If your boss ignores you, that's another sign. Of course, there are times when your manager is genuinely busy. But if she or he claims to be busy and meets everyone except you, well, then you know what your manager is trying to do. Quiet fire you. Number four, you are kept out of cool projects or projects that have been your niche. Say you work at an interior solutions firm, designing patios is your forte, and you have a fabulous track record, but a high-profile patio project is given to a colleague, even though you have the time and the bandwidth to do that project. Here's another sign of quiet firing. You are not kept up to date on what's happening at work, especially on information that's relevant to your work. Sign number six, your manager does not discuss your career trajectory with you. Worse, she or he sabotages your growth. Say you are up for a promotion this year, but your manager holds that back without any apparent reason. Number seven, I don't know how many of you know this, but your office reserves the right to demote you. If you find them exercising that right without any valid reason, well, I'm sorry, but you just got quiet fired. So to sum it up, quiet firing is about neglecting a worker or depriving him or her of company resources or not giving opportunities. Some say quiet firing is not very different from workplace bullying. It is also considered to be a classic sign of a toxic workplace. Quiet quitting is also considered to be synonymous with passive-aggressive work culture. So why do bosses quiet fire? Why not simply ask an employee to leave? Well, for starters, because of severance pay. When an employee is fired, the company is expected to pay a severance. Some companies are also expected to help the employee look for other opportunities. But if the same employee voluntarily resigns, then the company does not have to worry about severance or providing support. Then there are times when the manager is simply not capable of coaching or mentoring a team. She or he is least bothered about appreciating the team or their growth. In situations like these, the manager unknowingly quiet fires employees. Also, firing is uncomfortable. Asking someone to leave in as many words is not the easiest conversation to have. It may demoralize others, trigger office gossip. Firing also involves rocking the boat, and most managers are afraid of this. In fact, firing an employee is often one of the riskiest things they have to do. Let me show you some numbers. According to marketing services company Conductor, between this year and last year, there has been a 24% increase in online search for how to fire someone. The search for when to fire someone has gone up 180%. My point is, why risk all of this when you can simply create a situation where the person himself or herself resigns? Next question, does quiet firing actually work? Well, more than you think it does. A lot of employees cite low pay or lack of opportunity for leaving a company. So if the company wants an employee to leave, they know exactly what to do. The question is, what should you do? What should you do if you are being quiet fired? I would say first speak to the person who is quiet firing you. In most cases, I'm guessing that would be your manager. So talk to your manager. Ask him or her what the problem really is. Talk about what problems you are facing, and then try finding a common ground. And still, if nothing changes, then perhaps think about exploring other opportunities. Because let's face it, why stay in a place that does not appreciate your work? Also, no one should have to put up with a toxic workplace and bullying at work. That said, it's not always the manager who is at fault. Sometimes an employee has an attitude problem or could be underperforming. Then there are employees who have decided to quiet quit. Say an employee is doing the bare minimum in a team of highly motivated people, or he or she has just tuned out. In such cases, the manager has no option but to not give the employee opportunities because the manager knows the employee would not do justice to it. But even then, it is always better to have a conversation than quiet fire. You see, no one likes being neglected or snubbed. It demoralizes the employee, hammers his or her self-confidence and self-respect. So even when a person must be fired, it's always better to have that conversation and politely ask them to leave. And this is better, not just for the employee, but also for the employer. You see, quiet firing comes with a lot of uncertainty and absolutely no timeline. You never know when the person decides to resign. Put yourself in the manager's place. Your team is in the middle of a critical project. You are short-staffed and running on a tight deadline. And then a person you were quiet firing decides to actually quit when you can least afford to lose another hand. Is there anything in this situation that is desirable? Also, when employees leave, it reflects badly on the company. A good employer will provide extra support to employees who are not meeting expectations. A good organization will guide an employee, not quiet fire him or her.